tricky to market. And in California, it was still illegal to use the words cannabis and beer in the same ad. So, Saria created a Spotify playlist because playlists don't have to be federally approved. Saria concealed its advertising message inside the playlist by putting up posters in California with a scannable QR code and a tagline that said, "Legally, this ad can't say much, but this playlist can." The playlist contained 8 songs. The trick was to read the titles sequentially as one sentence. The 8 song titles read as follows: "Hello, hello, hello. We make alcohol-free beer for people who love getting high." It was a crafty message from a craft beer. There are also cannabis-infused soft drinks, bottled water. Ben & Jerry's ice cream has a CBD flavor ready to launch. There is cannabis-infused gravy for Thanksgiving, cannabis-infused tampons, toothpastes, and chewing gum. There is even a line of sports bras, leggings, and jumpsuits infused with 25 grams of CBD oil for your higher intensity workouts. And O. Henry has a bar called the 425 to eat 5 minutes after you've partaken. The possibilities are endless. It's interesting to watch the evolution of the cannabis industry. For a certain older generation, it must seem unreal that marijuana has gone from a criminal offense to being completely legal in one lifetime. To a younger demographic, it's more like, what's taken so long? Currently, the alcohol industry certainly has much more latitude when it comes to advertising its products than the cannabis industry does. But that may just be a matter of time. As the first G7 country to legalize recreational marijuana use, it's smarter to ease regulation than it is to backtrack. So my guess is that cannabis advertising regulations will slowly begin to mirror the beer industry. We already see "Don't Drive High" ad campaigns out there, mirroring "Don't Drink and Drive." And you can already see the advertising straining to be set free, hiding inside Spotify playlists and pretending to be online banking ads. To be more visible than that right now would be one toke over the line when you're under the influence. I'm Terry O'Reilly. This episode was recorded in the Terrestream Airstream mobile recording studio. Producer Debbie O'Reilly. Sound engineer Jeff Devine. Under the Influence theme by Ari Posner and Ian Lefevre. Tunes provided by APM Music. Follow me on social at Terry O Influence. You can also find our podcasts on the new Apostrophe YouTube channel. See you next week.
Hi, this is David Hine from Newmarket, Ontario. Fun fact, one of Bob Dylan's most famous songs is titled Rainy Day Women, numbers 12 and 35. And if you multiply 12 times 35, you get 420. Just saying.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. It's one of the most anticipated CBC music events of the year. Joy to the World Euro Radio Christmas Music Day, now celebrating its 30th anniversary. Hi there, my name is Paolo Pietropalo, and I'd like to invite you to join me as I take you to the concert halls and churches of Europe for classical holiday favorites this Sunday starting at 9 a.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Music and on the CBC Listen app. For the full broadcast schedule, go to cbcmusic.ca/joy.
If it happened today, find out today. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region. CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel. At noon, it's minus 21 in downtown Winnipeg. Clearing up this afternoon, some blowing snow, north wind gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour. That wind calming down this afternoon, temperature falling to minus 22. Well, City of Winnipeg crews have begun clearing streets after this morning's blizzard. The storm has disrupted business at many Winnipeg institutions, including the city. The CBC's Cameron McLean reports.
Winnipeg City councillors and City Hall staff gathered for the last council meeting of the year this morning, but a planned public hearing on zoning changes, including a plan to scrap a window bylaw meant to protect birds, has been postponed. That hearing has been rescheduled to January 21st. On Wednesday, Mayor Scott Gillingham said snow crews were ready and sanding roads in preparation for the storm. Plowing on major streets began around 1 a.m., and crews started clearing sidewalks at 7. That work will continue throughout the day. Garbage and recycling collection have been cancelled. The Brady Road landfill and all 4 R depots remain open. Drivers are advised to use caution, especially around heavy equipment. The annual winter route parking ban remains in effect. No parking on designated winter routes between 2 and 7 a.m. You can check the city's Know Your Zone app or the website for the latest snow clearing updates. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The city now says sidewalk clearing is paused until this evening because of blowing snow. Some Winnipeg parents are fuming after every school in the city closed today, some with very little notice. Shelley Amos is the superintendent for the Pembina Trail School Division. She's also the chair of the Winnipeg Metro Superintendents. Amos says first thing this morning they plan to open schools. She says that changed when Winnipeg police issued an advisory to stay off the roads.
We had to make the best decision we could at the time with the information on hand. And when new information came our way, we were able to revisit that decision. And so that may have been a little bit later than many people would have liked, including ourselves. I can only acknowledge that.
Amos says some students had already arrived at school when they learned all classes were canceled. She says officials will review today's decision making to determine if protocols should change. You can hear more on this story coming up on CBC's Radio Noon. Meanwhile, outside the city of Winnipeg, the blizzard is still having an impact on travel. The CBC's Megan Ketchison has been monitoring the impact.
Well, if you look at the Manitoba 511 map online, you'll see mostly red for the southern part of the province, and it's moving east. Earlier today, the Trans-Canada was closed from the Saskatchewan border to Winnipeg. Now it's closed all the way to the Ontario border. The perimeter, highways 2, 3, 59 and 75 are all closed, as well as Highway 12 to the U.S. border. In western Manitoba, as that storm moves on, the highways in the Riding Mountain area are starting to reopen. Out at Richardson International Airport, if you're flying out or expecting someone, check with the Winnipeg Airports Authority website. Most of the flights this morning were either delayed until after 11 or they were outright canceled altogether. Manitoba Hydro has restored power in that large outage that was along Pembina Highway. However, power is out still around the St. Adolphe and Niverville areas. Crews are hoping to get those restored early this afternoon. Reporting live, Megan Ketchison, CBC News.
Well, stay home. That's the message to anyone thinking about heading out on the highways today. Dozens of highways from the Parklands to Interlake to southern Manitoba were closed due to reduced visibility and drifting snow. RCMP Sergeant Paul Maneg says conditions are terrible.
Probably dozens of people that get us have hit the ditch. I'm not seeing actually any collisions between vehicles. It just seems to be everyone has basically lost control, entered the ditch, and then now they're stuck or stranded.
Maneg says under law, Mounties can fine you if you are driving on a closed highway. He says if you're on the road and it is suddenly closed, go to whatever is closest, your destination or where you started, to get off it as soon as possible. Winnipeg police are investigating after anti-Semitic comments were shouted at a menorah lighting at the Health Sciences Centre. It happened Monday during a Hanukkah celebration, just a day after a deadly attack in Australia, also during a Hanukkah celebration. Yitzchak Cheratan is the chaplain for Jewish patients at HSC. He wasn't there when it happened, but saw the aftermath.
We're very, very disappointed that there are people bigoted with such bigotry in Canada, which is supposed to be a country which has a lot of tolerance for everyone.
Hospital leadership and Health Minister Uzoma Asagwera have spoken out against the incident. Cheritan would like to see more done to combat anti-Semitism. Tonight, a menorah is expected to be lit at the Rady Centre. Now to a bit of international news. European farmers are driving their tractors into Belgium, protesting a proposed free trade deal with South American countries. They're blasting music, blocking the roads, and setting off fireworks outside an EU leaders' meeting. Police have fired tear gas and water cannons at the demonstration. The farmers say they are worried this trade deal will undercut their livelihoods. The EU is hammering out an agreement with Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Bolivia. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon on the CBC Listen app. And we're streaming today on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel because we've got a lot of coverage here in regards to the winter storm here in Manitoba. So coming up after 12:30, we're going to speak with a superintendent from the Winnipeg School Superintendents, Metro Superintendents Group about the decision behind school closures today. That's coming up after 12:30. We're going to check in on the very latest. We're going to hear from Hydro, from the Winnipeg Airport Authority, Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. But first up here on the show, we're going to get the very latest on this system with our CBC weather specialist, Riley Lachuk. Southern Manitoba is currently in the midst of a blizzard that brought heavy snowfall and strong wind to some parts of our province. We have extensive coverage today here on Radio Noon, but let's get the latest on where this system is at with CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. Hi, Riley.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so what's the latest on this?
Okay, so I think that the very latest that I can share with you is that we have started to see, as expected, a very slow reduction in the wind speeds that we've seen across southern Manitoba. That's going to be the big story as we head through the afternoon hours. I mean, the snow has, for the most part, tapered off across southern Manitoba, but looking at some of the wind speeds that we're seeing right now, Winnipeg, for example, at 48, gusting to 61, seeing gusts in the 60s through south central Manitoba into the Red River Valley, just about gusting to 60 still in the Interlake as well. So a very windy afternoon ahead. If you have any plans to do any highway travel in particular, take it easy, because even though the snow has stopped, the snow has tapered off, doesn't mean that the visibility is any better out there because of all of that fresh snow being blown around by the wind. So at the moment, minus 20 in Winnipeg. Actually, just looking outside on our roof camera right now, even a couple of peaks of sunshine out there. So that's how quickly we're getting back into clear skies. And that's going to set us up as we get into the overnight hours tonight for some very cold air to move in behind this. And we're starting to see some of that in northern Manitoba already, with current temperatures at minus 33 in Thompson, Gillam, Churchill, minus 32 degrees at the moment, in the minus 20s for the south. But as we get through the night and we get high pressure clearing us out here, that will, yes, start to ease the winds as we get through the night, but also pull in some very cold Arctic air from the north as high pressure starts to push further south. So east into southeastern Manitoba, northwestern Ontario, still seeing a lot of snow falling at this hour. So any travel east of the city into northwestern Ontario likely still to be quite treacherous as we head into the afternoon, even into the evening tonight. Blizzard warnings have started to decrease on the map. That has now ended for Winnipeg. Doesn't mean that visibility is any better out there. It just doesn't meet that criteria for a blizzard warning anymore. We still have winter storm warnings in place into northwestern Ontario. Like I mentioned, Marge, we are looking at things clearing back into some sunshine this afternoon, but very cold temperatures as we head into the overnight hours tonight.
Okay, Riley, thank you so much for the very latest. And I do want to mention that Riley's going to join us here throughout the show with the very latest on this forecast. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And today we're opening up our listener line for any messages that you have for listeners out there about the weather, about what you're seeing out there on the roads. Here's the listener line to call, 204-788-3797. Again, 204-788-3797. Leave a message, and hopefully we can play it later on in the show. Also want to let you know that you can call our commuter line, too, if there's something that you're seeing out there on the roads that people should know about. 204-788-3093. Again, 204-788-3093 if you have a traffic tip for us. It is 12:10 now. Well, let's check in with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure on the highways out there. Tara Liskey speaks for Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure and joins me now on the line. Good afternoon, Tara.
Good afternoon.
What is the very latest that you can share with us on highways here in Manitoba, especially those that have been affected by the storm?
Yeah, we're seeing out west, some of the highways are beginning to open up. TransCanada just recently opened up from Eli to the Saskatchewan border because the weather conditions are improving with the increased visibility. The crews are able to get out on the highways and clear the roads, and then the RCMP are able to open them for the motoring public because it's safe to do so.
How long have crews been working? I mean, the storm started to actually roll through yesterday. So what kind of work are they doing out there? How long have they been out there on the roads?
Yeah, last night our crews worked into the evening. We were battling more of a freezing rain until the snow started setting in later on in the evening. This morning, some of the crews were out as early as 3:30 in the morning, starting to tackle the highways. Obviously, with reduced visibility, sometimes our crews can't get out there if it's not safe to do so, so they'll tackle some of the other roads or wait until conditions improve.
Are there certain highways right now that are the priority for Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure?
Yeah, we do have different priorities within the province. We have level 1, 2s, and 3. So level 1s are TransCanada 59, 75. They would get top priority, so our crews are currently out there trying to open them up for the public, clear them of snow, and then they'd move on to the level 2s and level 3s later on when all of our level 1s are opened.
And they sanding and salting out there?
Currently not, maybe just in finite areas like intersections and stuff, but with the blowing snow, the sanding and salting isn't effective. So our crews do have to adjust their operations based on what's going on out there because conditions do change fairly quickly.
I want to ask you about Manitoba 511. How up-to-date is the information on that website for people who might be turning to that to find out the very latest on the highways?
Yeah, we always recommend tuning into 511, checking your app before you head out. Conditions are always changing. Our staff are constantly updating. Our CMP are calling in different closures and or opening different sections of highways. We also do have Track My Plow, so you can see where the plows currently are. So always advise everyone to check 511 before heading out.
Finally, Tara, what do you want listeners to know about the highways right now, or if they plan to be out there on the roads?
Yeah, just drive safely. We want everyone to get to where they want to safely. Slow down when you are approaching plows if the road's open. Obviously, stay off the roads if they are closed.
Thank you very much for joining us today here on the show and for the very latest, Tara.
You're welcome. Take care.
Take care. Tara Liskey speaks for Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. Well, as you can imagine, flights in and out of Winnipeg's James Richardson Airport are affected by this weather. Carolee Falloon is with the Winnipeg Airports Authority and joins me now on the line. Good afternoon. Welcome to the show, Carolee.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So what are we seeing right now with how flights in and out of the Winnipeg Airport are being affected by this weather?
Yeah, I can confirm that many flights have been affected by the winter storm. So our website does have all the updated flight information, but realistically, the best source of information is with passengers' airline. We did have a period this morning for about 4 hours where flights were grounded due to the storm and the weather conditions. Flights are no longer grounded, but we're experiencing quite a few delays on cancellations of flights. So we really want anybody who was planning to travel to please check the status of their flight.
Any idea on, how many cancellations, happened this morning because of this winter storm?
All the information is up to date on our website. I'm not sure the exact number, but it was quite a few, and the list may grow in the next couple of hours just due to that a backlog due to the weather.
I don't know if you can say it all, but were there quite a few passengers that were in the airport that were stranded? What was the scene like this morning?
Yeah, there are a lot of passengers, and for anybody whose flight was canceled or delayed, we're a 24/7 operation, so the airport will be here to support you and guide you through next steps. But realistically, what we would like people to do is if your flight has been canceled, there is really no point in coming to the airport because your next point of contact is going to be with your airline for that rescheduled flight. So, if your flight has been canceled, please don't come to the airport and know that your next point of contact will be with the airline. And for anybody whose flight is proceeding, we really want to make sure that you give yourself extra time to get to the airport just due to the conditions of the road. So for anyone who is flying out on one of the flights that's moving forward today or in the coming days, please just give yourself extra time so that you can safely get to the airport.
How is the airport handling this weather? We had a lot of snow. We have some strong winds. We had some ice out there. What were crews doing to prepare for flights to take off and to land?
Our airport is always prepared for these type of weather events, especially in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So our crews work around the clock to clear the airfield, to clear the parking lots, and all of the snow around the airport. So our crews, work 24/7 to ensure that we're prepared for any kind of weather incident like this.
Okay. And Carolee, finally, again, a reminder where people can go to check to see the status of flights.
So they can check our website, ywg.ca, but they can also check with their airline directly. They should be notified by their airline as well through email or through the app.
Carolee, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me so much. Yeah.
Carolee Falloon is with the Winnipeg Airports Authority. Let's check in now with CAA Manitoba. Nadia Matos is Manager of External Communications with CAA Manitoba and joins me now on the line. Good afternoon, Nadia.
Good afternoon.
What is CAA Manitoba seeing out there in terms of calls for tows or for assistance?
It is a busy morning like so many other different providers today. So far, we've had about 302 active calls. So on a typical winter day, that's how much we see all day. So if we're seeing it just for the first portion of the day, then definitely we know we've been a lot busier than that. Most of our calls have been winch calls, which means we're pulling people out of ditches or pulling people out of snow situations. Our average wait time has gone up because of that, because our drivers are out in the snow conditions. And as a result, we're actually prioritizing members who are in unsafe situations. And if you're safe at home, we're going to take a little bit longer for you. Right now, we paused calls for members who are safe at home.
Any idea about how long the average wait might be for someone who might need assistance?
Well, right now we're looking at just over 90 minutes for a tow call. You got to remember the tow operator has got to, be in the elements, be in the snow, but a lot of that snow is actually hindering our ability to kind of get around. That's also as well as, if we are coming to you, you really want to make sure that you give us a call once your street has been plowed, once your driveway has been plowed, because it comes down to accessibility. We need to have the accessibility around the vehicle to be able to tow it. So that is an extra added complexity as well. If the roads aren't towed, that means we can't get to you as quickly as we'd like to.
Now, Nadia, when weather like this hits, does CAA Manitoba have more crews out there to help people?
We definitely, keep that into consideration. Of course, we bring in as many people as possible, and it's all hands on deck, both from crews out on the road, but also from just the teams that are managing, the crews out there and the calls and stuff like that. It really is the type of day that kind of brings us together, and we want to and are keenly focused on rescuing as much people as possible. That's why we're triaging the calls right now to make sure that the people that are in unsafe situation out in the elements, that they are our priority. And that means that it's going to take a little bit longer to get to people who are safe, sound, and warm inside their homes.
Nadia, if someone is waiting for assistance, what do they need to remember?
Well, as we mentioned, making sure that your vehicle around you is plowed as much as possible, or just, shoveled. If you have, if you're in a ditch, don't overexert yourself to try to free your vehicle, but do make sure that your tailpipe is not, covered with snow. The safest place a lot of the times is inside your vehicle, but if you don't feel safe at any time, you need to call 911 to kind of just let them know where you are. And the best thing is just to hold on tight. Someone is going to get to you as soon as they possibly can.
Finally, I want to ask you anything that people should keep in mind if they do decide that they're going to drive in these conditions.
Well, I would probably challenge and say, I know Christmas is around the corner, but we can all just take some time to maybe perhaps just take a breather and stay home. I think if you don't have to go out, please don't. However, if you do have to get to a job, say you're a first responder or work at a hospital or something like that, just take it easy. Try to stick to the main roads as much as possible. Those are going to be plowed quicker and faster than some of the side roads. We always recommend never leaving your home without at least half a tank of gas and a fully stocked emergency kit, because you never know when you are going to be confronted with weather situations like we've been dealing with in the last few hours.
Nadia, I really do appreciate you joining us on the show today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Stay warm.
Yeah, you too. Nadia Mattis is with CAA Manitoba.
Ho, ho, ho! Santa here with an invitation to call me on Radio Noon. The reindeer and I will swing by on December 24th to take your calls. Boys and girls, let me know if you're ready for Christmas. Baking cookies, creating decorations, putting them on the tree, and have your wish list ready. That's December 24th on CBC Radio Noon.
It is 12:22 and you are listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, everywhere on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Thank you so much for joining us. Still ahead here, we're going to hear from Manitoba Hydro about some of the power outages that were caused by this winter storm coming up. Stay tuned for that. Also want to mention we do have a call in today. It's going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but we're asking you about your favorite or best Christmas song. Give us a call here after 12:30 and join the conversation. But first, let's turn our attention now to the forecast. The wind, really big story today. North at times 40, gusting to 60. Temperatures going to hold steady at minus 20. Blowing snow, still blowing snow this evening, but it should start to taper off. It's going to be cold overnight, a low of minus 29 in Winnipeg. Tomorrow, mainly sunny in the morning with increasing cloud and light snow beginning later on in the day. High of minus 13 in the afternoon. Southeast wind at times gusting to 50. Periods of snow on Friday night. Saturday flurries in the morning, but clearing later on in the day, and a high of minus 15. Some current conditions around the province at this hour. Drifting snow in Brandon at minus 21. Churchill ice crystals minus 32. Right now in Thompson, sunshine and minus 33. In Winnipeg, light snow and blowing snow minus 21 with a north wind right now gusting to 70. Now, this winter storm has resulted in some power outages for parts of Manitoba. And joining us now is Peter Chura, Media Relations Officer for Manitoba Hydro. Good afternoon, Peter.
Hi, Marjorie.
What's the very latest on power outages that we're seeing right now here in Manitoba?
Well, currently, Marjorie, we're looking at about 4,000 customers that are without power due to this really severe winter storm. The majority of those are just south of Winnipeg in the St. Adolphe and Niverville area, but also in the Morden-Winkler area, we're seeing a significant number of outages there as well. Within the city of Winnipeg, we've managed to restore most of the power outages. There still are about 250 customers across say, half a dozen different outages across the city that we're still working on.
So, Peter, because the winds were strong and the weather out there was pretty extreme, what was it, down power lines? Do we know what caused some of the outages out there or how the weather might have affected that?
There were a significant number of down power lines, Marjorie, both within the city and in several rural areas outside the city. And that's the difficulty is when they're in that situation, when the roads are impassable, when highways are closed, the way that we find and assess and repair the damage is by driving along the lines and seeing where they're down. If we can't get there, we can't fix it. And we're just starting to get access to some roads in some areas now. But safety is still an issue. With high winds and blowing snow, visibility is a difficulty. And in areas, including within the city of Winnipeg, our equipment, the big bucket trucks and other vehicles have to be right on the road. So if you can avoid being on the roads, first of all, for your own safety, but also be safe around our crews if you see them at work.
It's probably hard to say because, as you said, the weather is creating some challenges for crews in getting to some of those power outages. Any idea on an average wait time as to when power might be restored, or is that kind of hard to tell right now?
I wouldn't be able to say at this point, Marjorie. There's a lot of uncertainty involved when crews are unable to find all the damage and know exactly what they're going to need to do to fix it. So we're not estimating restoration times at this point. We have advised customers who are experiencing outages to be prepared for an extended outage as possible.
Peter, if people want to find out the latest on power outages or they need to report one, where's the best place for them to go?
Go to our website, hydro.nb.ca/outages, and you can see the outage map there. It's generally a very accurate reflection of which outages are happening in which parts of the province. We will say that with the difficulty of estimating restoration times, what's displayed on the map for restoration times is probably not accurate, to be frank. So we'll update that once we have more information available that we're able to more accurately estimate what the restoration times are. And if people are experiencing outages, you can also report an outage online in that portal, or you can call our main number.
Peter, thank you so much for joining us here and giving us the very latest.
Thanks, Marjorie, and everybody stay safe out there.
Take care. Peter Chura is Media Relations Officer for Manitoba Hydro. Coming up now to 12:27. Well, let's check in now with one of our reporters who is out there in the storm. Jura McElwraith is one of our reporters. She's from our Steinbach Bureau. She joins us in Oakbank right now. Hi, Jura.
Hi.
Hi. Okay, so tell me, show us what's happening. You're in Oakbank right now. What is it like out there right now?
Yeah, so it's really windy. That's the main thing right now, and that's making it quite cold. Behind me, there's quite a few people out with their snowblowers now and lots of people shoveling. I'm at the corner of Laurel Bay and Highway 206, which is the main street through Oakbank. And yeah, there's quite a bit of snow built up around me here. Yeah. But it's all blown up too, so.
We're streaming right now here on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. And Jura, really, you're a trooper for standing out there and giving us the latest on the storm. What was it like when the storm rolled through your neck of the woods? What did you see? What did you experience?
Yeah, so yesterday I came home from Steinbach. I worked from home for the afternoon. And there was some freezing rain around 2 o'clock. And then it turned into snow overnight. Didn't really see a ton, but then this morning woke up to quite the white background, quite the white landscape. So yeah, it's accumulated a lot and it's blowing quite a bit. So
now you've been sending us pictures and videos of what the driving conditions were like out there on Highway 15 this morning. Describe to us what the conditions were like this morning.
Yeah, it seemed like it was pretty near whiteout. My dad on his feet worked for videos of like 3 cars right in a row stuck in the ditch between Dougal and Glass. So it seemed like it was pretty bad around 7 a.m. Right now, there's like more traffic on 206 than there was earlier today. The plows have gone through. There's been snow clearing happening here as well. But yeah, it seems pretty icy around me here, and I don't know how great it would be to go out. So yeah, and it's cold, so don't go out if you don't have to, I guess.
Yes, and I'm gonna end our conversation here because I want you to get in and warm up. And thank you so much for being a trooper and joining us here on Radio Noon today.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Jura McElwraith is our CBC Manitoba reporter from our Steinbach Bureau. She is currently in Oak Bank. 12:29 now. Just a reminder, if you have a message that you want to share with us, give us a call about what you're seeing out there in traffic, 204-788-3093. You can also call our listener line. I'll get May to kind of scroll up a little bit so I can give you our listener line number, 204-788-3093. If there's a message that you want to get across to people about the weather, maybe a service that's been impacted, maybe you want to offer something to somebody who might be affected by this weather. We're going to have a lot more coming up here on the second half of Radio Noon, including hearing from a superintendent from Winnipeg, one of the Winnipeg school divisions, about the decision behind the school closure. Stay tuned for that. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM in Winnipeg, on the CBC Listen app and streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. Stay with us. Your CBC local news is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12:30, it's minus 21 in downtown Winnipeg. Clearing up this afternoon, north wind gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour. That wind calming down this afternoon. Temperature falling to minus 22. Well, crews in the city are busy plowing streets, but some services have been affected. There's no garbage pickup today. The Brady Road landfill and all 4R depots are closed. The city will give an update on street and sidewalk clearing at 1 o'clock today. Some highways in southern Manitoba have reopened, including Highway 1 between Eli and the Saskatchewan border. However, Highway 1 between Winnipeg and Eli is still closed. Well, RCMP say if you don't have to drive on the highways today, don't. The blizzard that has been moving across the province has created plenty of blowing and drifting snow. Visibility has been reduced to near zero. Sergeant Paul Maneg says there haven't been many collisions between vehicles, but there are a lot of cars in the ditch.
Stay home. Like I say, highways are closed pretty much all over southern Manitoba. There's just no reason to be out there. If we had no winds today, this probably would be one of those, beautiful winter days with the, right around, the minus 15 to minus 20 mark.
Maneg says if you find yourself on a highway that is closed while you're driving on it, keep going if you're close to your destination, or if it's closer to go back home, turn around and get off the road. Maneg says you can be fined if RCMP finds you on a closed highway. Well, Steinbach missed the worst of the storm, but on highways surrounding the city, travel is treacherous. The CBC's Christopher Garreau reports.
I just got back from driving on Highway 52 west of Steinbach. It was closed while my fellow travelers and I were creeping along at 20 kilometers an hour in complete whiteout conditions. It wasn't that we couldn't see the lines on the road. The blowing snow made it hard to see the hood of my vehicle. There are some highway closures in the area, and for good reason. My truck was swaying in the wind, making it feel like I was going to be picked up and tossed in the ditch. So please stay off those highways. It's not worth it. Not today. Christopher Garreau, CBC News, Steinbach.
And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
Rosanna Hempel there with your CBC local news. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, on the CBC Listen app, and we're streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. That's because we have a lot of coverage today regarding the weather. I do want to mention a couple of things. Call our commuter line if you're seeing anything out there on the roads, on the highways that listeners should know here if they do plan to drive today. Traffic tips, commuter tips, even if you're walking out there or biking, 204-788-3093. Call our listener line if you have a message that you want to get out there for folks, whether it's a service that's been affected or something regarding the weather, 204-788-3093. Also want to mention, too, that we do have a call-in coming up, and we're talking about your favorite Christmas song. Give us a call here. We're going to have a very short, call-in today because we're going to do more weather coverage here. But if you want to share with us your thoughts, 204-780-0893. Toll-free out of town, 1-800-268-5483, or text us at 204-588-7355. But first, let's get weather specialist Riley Lachuk, who joined us earlier in the show to give us the very latest. Riley, okay, so the blowing snow, the snow is, I guess, tapering off from what we saw earlier today,
Yeah.
but we've got some cold coming.
Yeah, and that's going to be the story, Marge. As we get into the overnight hours tonight, will be the cold air that pushes in behind this low as it exits. We've started to already see some clearing into western parts of the province, certainly a lot sunnier in northern Manitoba, where we did see wind chill values close to that minus 50 mark overnight last night. That's frostbite on exposed skin in minutes, and we're looking at another round of some very cold air as we get into the overnight hours tonight. I'm going to start with the winds because as we get through the afternoon hours, especially, that is going to be the story. So winds right now sustained at 40 to 50 kilometers an hour across the Red River Valley into south central parts of the province. Right now, winds in Winkler, for example, gusting at 70, 63 in Portage, even into northwestern Ontario, where that snow is still falling, looking at sustained winds at 30, gusting to about 50 kilometers an hour. So any travel into Ontario in particular, as we get into the later afternoon, into the evening, that's where the focus will shift visibility-wise, as we still see some of that snow falling around Kenora, through Dryden, along the Trans-Canada, starting to taper off a bit into Fort Francis. But we are looking at that pushing out. High pressure sets in behind this. So even by, 4 o'clock this afternoon, very likely we're into a mainly sunny sky even here in Winnipeg. But the trade-off is very cold air as we get through the overnight hours tonight. Then our focus turns to another clipper. And if you're keeping count, this is clipper number 3 this week so far, coming through as we get through the later afternoon hours, Friday into Saturday. Again, I mean, this one's not as potent, but still pretty general, 4 to 6 centimeters. Some pockets of central Manitoba, perhaps up to 10 as we get into the morning hours on Saturday. And I'm not expecting the same amount of wind with this one that we saw through through the day today as we get through the day tomorrow. So winds through the rest of the day still gusting at around 50 or 60 as we get through the afternoon through the Red River Valley. But as that high pressure moves in, it really brings the wind back down again. Still, though, as we get into Friday, I'm looking at gusts picking up to 40, perhaps even 50 through the later afternoon. So prepare for a bit of blowing snow as we get through Friday into Saturday once again. Like I said, perhaps not to the extent that we saw this morning, but certainly just to make you aware that we are looking at some of that impact as we get through into the weekend. Overnight temperatures, I'll touch on that really quickly, around minus 30 overnight tonight across southern Manitoba, but still into northern Manitoba, minus 32 in Churchill, Thompson, minus 35 overnight, minus 37 in Shamattawa. It doesn't take a lot of wind to really elevate those wind chill values either. So looking at wind chills into the minus 40s again through northern Manitoba. Minus 13 tomorrow, minus 15 for Saturday, minus 17 to start winter on Sunday, and then maybe a few more flurries coming our way as we get into Monday of next week.
All right. Thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley's going to join us one more time here on the show with the very latest on that forecast. We got a call on the commuter line from Sandra. She's driving all around Winnipeg today, downtown, La Jamotier, and on Marion right now. And Sandra wanted to leave a tip that it's very difficult to see if a lane is 1 or 2 lanes because of snow on most roads. So something to be aware of if you are driving in the city today. It is 12:37. Well, every school in Winnipeg is closed today due to the storm. And let's get what's happening with Shelley Amos. Shelley is the superintendent for the Pembina Trails School Division. She is also the chair of the Winnipeg Metro Superintendents. Good afternoon, Shelley.
Good afternoon, Marjorie.
What is the latest right now regarding school closures in Winnipeg?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question. It's been a challenging morning right across the city, as we are all aware and became aware this morning. And so we do have all schools closed in all of the school divisions across Winnipeg, including the DSFM. That's a rarity. The last time I think school divisions in Winnipeg closed, it was 2022, when there was sort of a citywide preemptive plan for a storm that maybe didn't end up transpiring the way it was predicted to. And so in that situation, that call was made earlier and there was some planning time. This morning was a totally different situation as things were deteriorating on the fly very early this morning. And so decisions had to be made based on the information that we had at that time.
I want to ask you about this because there was a notice that went out to some school divisions. I think Louis Riel School Division was one that asked that any students or staff that were already in school were asked to shelter in place. What were the school divisions seeing in terms of people that arrived at the schools before notice that maybe schools were closed today?
Yeah, and that was one of the challenges this morning. So thank you for that question. We made the call 6 o'clock this morning that we would not be able to provide busing across the city, but schools initially were going to remain open. At that time, Winnipeg Transit was running, and I think it has been running all morning, and the perimeter was open. And so we look at all of those components when we make that decision. But as the morning went on, things deteriorated, and WPS issued a traffic advisory that roads were deteriorating. And so when we had that information in hand, we had to reconvene and ended up making the decision to close schools. But we have schools who start at different times across the city, and, some high schools might have had practices in the morning, et cetera. Certainly our custodial staff are there in the morning. So we did have schools where some students shown up in the morning prior to making that call, or as we were making that call, or perhaps they didn't see the communication in time. So staff were at schools to welcome students and then contact parents to make their way back when it was safe to do so, to pick up their child. I wouldn't have numbers for you. I know in Pembina Trails, the schools that I've talked to had a few students, 2 or 3 to school, and in some cases daycares that had opened earlier had students there.
There have been some concerns from parents. There have been some comments on social media, as you can imagine, that some parents felt that the notice that the closures went out a little bit late. How do you respond to some of the concerns that parents may have about when the decision was made to close the schools?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I would say, we had to make the best decision we could at the time with the information on hand. And when new information came our way, we were able to revisit that decision. And so that may have been a little bit later than many people would have liked, including ourselves. I can only acknowledge that. And we'll, of course, review and take today as a learning experience to determine what processes should be in the future. We do our best to communicate as quickly as we can using multiple sources of communication from each school division, including media. And in that way, we thank you for helping us out live on radio and in print so people can find the best source of information, but acknowledge that it was a later call than anyone would have liked this morning.
The forecast was issued about couple days ago, so there was a forecast that a storm was coming. Did that factor at all, or did the school divisions, kind of go off of the forecast, or because we did have a forecast earlier this week on the storm?
We do pay attention to all of it, but typically we don't preempt. We still gather at our information. We have people out on the roads as early as 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, checking conditions and sort of see what the state is in the morning. Again, this morning transit was still going. The perimeter was still open when we were making that call. So we do pay attention to it for sure, and it does factor into the decision, and then we make a real-time decision.
For the students and the staff that are in schools that have had to shelter because of the storm, I mean, what kind of services or what will be provided to them, given that some folks obviously are staying home and that they've had to, but they're in these buildings already while we're still in this storm?
Yeah. That's a fair question. I think most are being picked up slowly as the day goes on, but in the meantime, there's staff in the buildings to, be alongside students, and learning, of course, won't look the same today as it would with the full load there. So, students will be given access to common rooms or their classrooms and have activities to do. All of our schools, with the wonderful nutrition funding we have food in place, so we can provide that to students as they need along the way.
Shelley, what do parents, students, staff need to know moving forward, whether it's this afternoon or tomorrow, about attending school?
Yeah, the schools will remain closed today for the full day. And tomorrow, will be a new day. The situation with the weather is expected to have passed by today. But of course, we'll always take a look again and try to make that call again at 6 o'clock in the morning with the information we have on hand. At this point, we're expecting that all of our schools will be able to open tomorrow.
If parents need to get the most up-to-date information, Shelley, where do you suggest they go?
I think, most school divisions, it's the website that I would direct parents to go to. But we also have other communication tools in different school divisions, different softwares. So wherever parents usually go to get that kind of information. But right now, while the system is closed for today, I would say each school division's website would be the best place to go. Just an acknowledgement and a thank you to everybody, from the staff and families. We know it was a bit of a later call. We did our best to communicate. It's not a decision that we take lightly. It's a well thought out decision. It's coordinated across school divisions in Winnipeg right now. And we thank everybody for understanding that. We see changing weather patterns. And so, we'll take today as a learning experience and review our processes and see what we need to do for future.
Shelley, I really do appreciate you joining us today here. Thank you so much for your time and stay safe out there.
Thank you for having me today. Take care.
That is Shelley Amos, who speaks for Winnipeg's Metro Superintendents. It is 12:45 now, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. We're also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel and also on the CBC Listen app. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. If you have a traffic tip, commuter line, give us a call, 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. We're going to take a little bit of a break here from the weather and get to our call-in. Now, is Mariah Carey still the undisputed queen of Christmas? For more than 30 years, the pop icon owned the holiday charts, but is it time she handed over the mistletoe to someone new? If you were to ask me, I'd say the best festive tune is Christmas in Hollis by Run DMC.
Under Christmas trees, decorate the house with lights at night. Snow's on the ground, snow white so bright. In the fireplace is the Yule log. Beneath the mistletoe as we drink eggnog.
But of course, we want to hear from you. In your opinion, what is the best holiday song? Give us a call, 204-780-0893, 204-780-0893, toll free out of town, 1-800-268-5483, or text us at 204-588-7355. Also, call our listener line and leave a message at 204-788-3797. We'd love to play some of your tunes here throughout our shows. Of course, this is going to be a shorter call in here because we've got a lot of weather news to get to, but I'd like to welcome music historian John Anerson, who joins me now on the line. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you? I've never heard that Run DMC song before, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a good tune to add to your list if you're looking for something fresh to listen to. But in your opinion, John, what's the best Christmas song out there?
Oh, well, again, it's probably an age thing here, but for me, it's Jingle Bell Rock, Bobby Helms, 1957. I remember hearing it as a kid, and it's perennial. I mean, every year you hear this song. You're starting, the beginning of December, you hear it all the time, and it just puts me, and I'm sure that there are hundreds of others, millions of others, who get that same Christmas spirit feeling as soon as they hear that song. It's just a fun song.
It is a fun song, and it's a great song that everybody can, of course, listen to during this time of year. John, the history of Christmas music, when did we go, because there's a lot of religious Christmas songs out there, to more pop, more rock, more contemporary?
Well, it kind of starts with Jingle Bell Rock, 1957, and Elvis that year also put out his Christmas album, which was re-released every couple of years, and I'm sure it has sold multi-millions since then. 57 is really kind of the time where we started getting rock and roll type Christmas songs. Rock and roll was, teenage rebellion music. It was music your parents didn't want you to listen to. And in 57 and 58 with, Brenda Lee and Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, teenagers, music, artists were recognizing that rock and roll could also embrace Christmas. And Christmas has always been a big market for recordings and sales of recordings. My relatives and family never knew what the heck to buy me when I hit my teens, but they knew that if they bought me some albums, then that was a safe bet. And the Christmas market was always something that artists looked to cash in on. And of course, that included Christmas music as well. And there was a bit of a lull in some of the Christmas music, going into the new millennium, but then Mariah Carey really revived it all. And, you talk about whether she is the queen queen of Christmas music nowadays? And I would say, yeah, she is, because, so many artists have released Christmas records. She's got the big one, and All I Want for Christmas Is You. I mean, that is something. That's a song that people will be singing or recording when you and I are long gone.
Absolutely.
For Christmas, there is just one thing I need.
Mariah Carey. Let's get to a caller who joins us now on the line. Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Hi, what's your favorite Christmas song?
Well, actually, I've got a funny one. It always makes me laugh. It's an old classic from Looney Tunes. Elmer Fudd doing I'll Have a Blue Christmas.
Oh, that's really cute. And why is that your favorite?
We're stuttering all the way through it. And most classic stations, even here, I think, once in a while, you'll hear that once or twice before Christmas. It's quite funny.
Oh, well, Kate, thank you so much for calling in and sharing that with us. We have a text message.
I don't think you could play that one nowadays because it's very insensitive to people who have a stammer.
Oh, okay. Let's get to a text message from Trudy. Trudy says, hello, Radio Noon. So many songs to enjoy at this time of year. To narrow it down is difficult. 2 at the top of the list would be Little Town by Cliff Richard, and a close second, All Through the Night by Quartet. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much, Trudy. Those 2 songs, Little Town and All Through the Night, Sean. You've heard of those?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Interesting to mention Cliff Richard. Cliff was very popular in Canada, not in the States until about the mid-'70s. But he was like Britain's Elvis in that he had the teen idol appeal. That he wasn't kind of as wild as Elvis in the early days, but he was huge in the UK for sure. And, his Christmas songs have certainly continued to resonate. What I always find funny is the fact that many of our best-known kind of pop Christmas songs, like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree, Brenda Lee, Have a Holly Jolly Christmas, Burl Ives, they were written by a Jewish guy who didn't even celebrate Christmas, Johnny Marks. And I guess his relatives, if they maintain the copyrights, are still making money off those songs every year. Because if you write a Christmas song, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
John, I want to ask you this because we've got a couple minutes left here. What do you think of the future of holiday music? Where do you see it going?
Well, the thing about holiday music that makes it endearing and appealing is that it connects us with family, and it's the imagery, the snow, the sleigh bells, and every Christmas song has to have sleigh bells jingling in it, and the fire and the family, all of that, the warm feelings that Christmas evokes, and the songs connect us to that, and again, whether it's, there's lots of contemporary artists, Justin Bieber, for example, even Neil Young did a Christmas album, Christmas at the Ranch, because there's recognition of the fact that Christmas means something to people. It means something to these artists, and it connects us all together. So I think Christmas music will continue to endure for a long, long time. And Mariah Carey's crown, may go to someone else in the near future, but for now it's pretty securely on her head.
Well, John, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm so sorry that we had to cut this short. Of course, we love talking to you. We love talking music. But I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay safe out there, John. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. And same to you and the CBC crew.
Take care. John Anerson is a music historian here in Winnipeg. Well, let's play a tune here before we get into the latest on the forecast. This is Let It Snow.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. No, it doesn't show signs of stopping. And I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned way down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I hate going out in the storm. But if you really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. Oh, the fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. But as long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
That is Let It Snow by Vic Damone. We were talking about favorite Christmas songs during our call-in today. We want to hear from you, though, because we want to play some of your favorite Christmas tunes throughout our shows here at CBC Manitoba. Call our listener line, 204-788-3797, 204-788-3797. Share some of your favorite Christmas songs, and we will play them for you here on Radio Noon. Again, if you have a traffic tip, call our commuter line. We've got a few minutes left in the show. 204-788-3093, 204-788-3093. Well, let's check in one last time with CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. The very latest on this system and what's coming our way. Hey, Riley, what's the latest on this?
So we're still seeing winds, March, that are very strong out there. I mean, not as strong as they were first thing this morning across southern Manitoba. We've seen some of the wind decreasing a bit, but certainly the story as we get through the afternoon will be the visibility and the blowing snow as we see the system pushing out, replaced with high pressure on the back end of this, which will really cool things down. So minus 21 in Winnipeg right now. Wind chill feeling closer to minus 36 in the city, and north wind at 44, gusting to 57. Orange level blizzard warnings remain in place along the international border. Along Highway 3, for example, into Steinbach, has been dropped through Winnipeg and the Interlake. Doesn't mean that, visibility is suddenly better. It just doesn't meet that criteria for that orange level warning anymore. So just take care on the highways as we get through the rest of the day into northern Manitoba, Thompson, Lynn Lake into Shamattawa. There is an extreme cold warning in place. This is because we're looking at another night where we see some very cold wind chill values, and we're going to look at temperatures in the south today as we see some clearing really starting to dip closer to minus 30 as we get through the night. So clear skies tonight, another round of snow as we get through the day tomorrow. Not as potent, not as much, I don't think, as we saw overnight last night into this morning, but certainly another 4 or 5 centimeters possible as we get through Friday into Saturday. Overnight temperatures close to minus 30 tonight. Wind chill values into the early morning tomorrow, close to minus 40 in the south, colder than minus 40 in the north. That's frostbite on exposed skin in 15 minutes or less. So take care out there through the rest of the day today. Really pay attention to the winds and the visibility, because that is going to be an issue right throughout the afternoon hours. And then we're into some cold air as we get through the night into tomorrow once again.
Okay, thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
And CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk will, of course, have the very latest on the forecast coming up this afternoon on Up to Speed, starting at 3 o'clock this afternoon. And again tonight on CBC Winnipeg News at 6. Well, speaking of Up to Speed, Julie Buckingham is the guest host today on the show and joins me now with a preview of what's coming up this afternoon. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Marge. I know you spoke with Manitoba Infrastructure a little bit earlier during Radio Noon. We'll check back in with them at about 20 after 3 or so to see if highway conditions are improving. Still a very long list of highway closures, at least at this point in the day. And we'll check back in and see how things are going for those crews. Inside the city, we'll be joined by City Councillor Janice Lukes, who is also part of the Public Works Department. She wants a residential parking ban declared so that all those subdivisions can get cleaned up. We'll see if she gets her wish.
Julie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Julie Buckingham hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. Tune into CBC Radio 1 from 3 to 6 o'clock. For the very latest, stay tuned here to CBC Radio 1, as well as our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba. I want to say thank you so much to the hardworking crew on the show today. Our tech, Abby Adiyemi, our show director, May McKillop. Thank you to our associate producer, Chidi Akuma, Corey Funk, and CBC weather specialist, Riley Lachuk. Also, Darren Morash, who is streaming us on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Have a safe day. Be safe out there. Stay warm wherever you are, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Coming up next year on CBC Radio 1, it is Quirks and Quarks. Have a good one.